In the depths of history, there are objects so strange, so inexplicably advanced, that they seem to blur the lines between myth and science. These aren't tales spun from fiction. They're real artifacts, relics from ancient civilizations that leave modern scientists scratching their heads. Here are some of the craziest ancient technologies scientists still can't explain. The Lycurgus cup. Let's start with an artifact so unique it almost defies belief. The Lycurgus cup. Imagine a simple-looking cup that under normal light glows in a rich shade of red. But with just a slight change in the angle or lighting, it transforms entirely, showing off a brilliant, otherworldly green. While this might sound like something crafted by a modern illusionist, it's actually a real Roman artifact from the 4th century. Crafted by artisans of the Roman Empire, this cup was embedded with something so rare, so sophisticated, it has scientists in awe to this day. What's the secret behind this magical transformation? It's not some ancient spell, but rather an astonishing level of technical skill. Roman glassmakers embedded microscopic particles of gold and silver into the glass, a technique that's incredibly difficult to replicate even today. These particles interact with light, creating a color-shifting illusion as the cup is tilted. The effect is so intricate and finely tuned that our best modern scientists have only been able to approximate it, and even then, without complete success. Attempts to recreate this feat using 3D printed materials have come close, but they haven't quite captured the same hypnotic effect. Yet the Lycurgus cup is more than just a pretty illusion. Carved in incredible detail, it depicts the myth of King Lycurgus, a story of battle, rage, and power, etched into glass in a way that feels almost alive. The depth of the artwork, combined with the baffling science behind the glass, raises so many questions. How did the Romans gain such a precise understanding of this rare technique? Did they stumble upon it by accident, or was it knowledge lost to time? Whatever the case, the Lycurgus cup remains one of the most hauntingly beautiful mysteries of the ancient world. The Codex Gigas. From delicate glass to a monstrous manuscript, our journey into the unexplained continues with a book that is not only a feat of human dedication, but also shrouded in dark legends. Meet the Codex Gigas, better known as the Devil's Bible. Weighing over 160 pounds and standing nearly 3 feet tall, this medieval tome is packed with detailed illustrations and mysterious texts. But its size isn't the only thing that sets it apart. It's what's inside. The Codex is infamous for its disturbing illustration of a massive, wide-eyed Satan peering out from the pages with a reptilian grin. This eerie detail is why it's gained its nickname, the Devil's Bible. But there's an even darker tale tied to this behemoth book. According to medieval lore, the Codex was created by a monk who had broken his vows and was sentenced to death. In desperation, he vowed to create a book so magnificent that it would bring eternal glory to the monastery. But as the story goes, he soon realized he'd need a superhuman amount of time and skill to complete such a work alone. So he supposedly struck a deal with Satan himself, who granted him the strength to finish the manuscript overnight. Legends aside, there's a very real mystery surrounding this tome. Modern researchers have analyzed the pages, noting that the consistent handwriting and style throughout suggest it was likely crafted by a single hand. But here's the catch. Creating such a massive, detailed manuscript should have taken an entire lifetime, not the relatively short span that analysts suspect. This means it was either a collaboration of monks with an uncanny ability to mimic each other's work or the product of an individual with superhuman dedication. The Codex has somehow survived the ravages of time and war. It even endured a fire at the Royal Library in Sweden, where, in an almost cinematic scene, it was thrown from a window to save it from the flames, injuring a bystander in the process. The Phaistos disc. Next up, we travel to the ancient palace of Phaistos, located on the island of Crete, a place that has offered countless treasures from the Minoan civilization. But none have puzzled historians like the mysterious Phaistos disc, a clay object found deep within the palace and decorated with intricate symbols. Carved over 2,000 years ago, This disc is covered in precisely 242 markings, created with hieroglyphic stamps while the clay was still soft. The careful craftsmanship suggests that whoever created it knew exactly what each mark meant and put immense effort into its design. Yet despite all the meticulous work, it remains indecipherable to us, locked in a language that has no known translation. Discovered in 1908 by an Italian archaeologist, the disc has baffled experts ever since. Some scholars believe the markings could represent a story, maybe a religious text that captured the beliefs of the Minoans. Others argue it might be a coded alphabet, detailing locations or events of importance to the people of ancient Crete. But here's the twist. It's the only known artifact of its kind. No other objects in the palace or anywhere else bear these same symbols. With no similar records to compare it to, theories have emerged that the disc might even be a forgery, a clever deception planted in modern times. Yet most experts who've studied it insist it's authentic. The clay appears to be genuinely ancient, and the images reflect aspects of Minoan life. Figures, tools, animals, and ships, all interwoven in a sequence no one has been able to crack. Without a Rosetta Stone for Minoan symbols, the Phaistos disc may be destined to keep its secrets forever, an ancient riddle buried deep in Crete's rocky soil. Whistling sling stones. This next mystery is one that strikes fear, a reminder that ancient warfare was not just about physical destruction, but psychological terror. These are the Roman whistling sling stones, a weapon as eerie as it was lethal. During the height of Roman power, these stones were carefully crafted with drilled holes that produced a whistling sound when hurled through the air. Just imagine, one moment, the battlefield is silent, and the next, an ominous whistling fills the air, signaling an impending attack. Discovered recently in Lockerbie, Scotland, these stones date back around 1,800 years, likely remnants from a major conflict between the Romans and the native Scottish tribes. Burnswark Hill, a site near Lockerbie, was the scene of a brutal battle, and these sling stones were almost certainly part of the Roman arsenal used there. As they flew through the air, their holes not only amplified their deadly impact, but produced a whistling noise that warned of impending doom. The Scottish tribes learned to recognize this sound, a signal that soon became synonymous with fear. This psychological edge is what made the whistling sling stones so devastating. The sound alone was enough to strike fear into the hearts of Rome's enemies, an auditory assault that broke spirits even before the stones reached their targets. A tactic meant to break morale as well as bones. The Oracle Room of Halsaflieni. In Malta, the Hypogeum of Halsaflieni is an ancient underground marvel built over 5,000 years ago by the Maltese temple-building culture. Rediscovered in 1902, this sanctuary served as a necropolis, with tiered levels and rooms containing artifacts and remains. However, during early excavation efforts, much was lost as workers rushed to clear the site, haphazardly discarding pieces of history to make way for new housing developments. But as archaeologists delved deeper, they uncovered one of the most intriguing finds in the ancient world, especially one small chamber that defied logic, the Oracle Room. Built on the middle level of the Hypogeum, this room had unique painted walls, and it wasn't long before people noticed its unusual properties. The moment anyone spoke inside, their voice would magnify, booming across the surrounding chambers in the temple. This eerie acoustic effect seemed to enhance even the smallest sounds. Experts believe this may have been a way to amplify prayers or religious chants throughout the temple, allowing all those gathered to hear the words clearly. The Oracle Room's haunting acoustics have left scientists questioning how much the ancient Maltese people knew about sound dynamics. Did they stumble upon the effect by accident, or did they understand the science of acoustics better than we might expect from people of their time? Today, the chamber is explored with caution to preserve its delicate structure, and visitors often feel a profound silence and resonance that seems to carry voices far beyond the room itself, a whisper from the ancient past that we're only beginning to understand. The Ulfberht swords. Shifting to a different kind of mystery, archaeologists in Northern Europe have uncovered weapons from 1,000 years ago bearing a single name, Ulfberht. These swords, found mostly in Scandinavia and near the Baltic Sea, stand out not only for their excellent preservation, but also for their mysterious origin. Inscriptions of Ulfbert mark the blades, sparking questions about who or what Ulfbert was. Dated to the 9th to 11th centuries, these swords are unlike typical European weapons of the era. Their steel quality was higher, employing methods that were largely unknown in Europe at the time. Some even contained a type of crucible steel believed to originate from Central Asia, over 2,000 miles away, adding to the mystery. How did these swords reach Northern Europe? The Ulfbert name inscribed on the blades appears to be of Frankish origin, pointing to what is now Germany's Rhineland as a possible starting point. But the exact story is hard to pin down. Why did swords bearing the same name show up across Northern Europe? And what explains the variations in construction methods and materials? One theory suggests that the steel may have been looted or traded, eventually repurposed into blades marked with Ulfbert by skilled smiths. But some experts speculate that Ulfbert was a legendary craftsman or a chieftain with an ego large enough to brand his name on weapons intended for his warriors, leaving a mark for both allies and enemies to see. Roman concrete. Walk through the ancient streets of Rome, and it's hard to ignore the sheer durability of its architecture. These structures, over 2,000 years old, still tower over the city, holding up against time and even water. The Pantheon, with its massive dome, could be mistaken for a modern feat of engineering, yet it's entirely a product of ancient Roman ingenuity. How could their buildings outlast many modern ones, especially when buildings today seem to fall apart after only a few decades? It turns out that the Romans had mastered a construction technique that's still a mystery. Their concrete was similar to ours in some ways. It worked as a strong binder, locking stones in place and sealing out moisture. But there was a crucial difference. Roman concrete was mixed with volcanic ash from Mount Vesuvius, creating what scientists now call pozzolanic concrete. This volcanic ash not only made the concrete stronger, but also allowed it to resist cracking, even underwater. Structures coated in this volcanic blend remain rock solid, despite 2,000 years of weather and erosion. So why aren't we using Roman concrete today? While we know the basic ingredients, the exact recipe remains elusive. The specific volcanic ash they used is no longer available, and the chemical makeup of ancient concrete has changed over time, adding layers to its mystery. Scientists today are working on alternatives, experimenting with coal fly ash as a substitute, hoping to create a longer-lasting concrete that might someday replace the materials we rely on. If successful, maybe this new formula could finally outlast the raccoons and keep our buildings intact for centuries. The King of Nassil. The Roman concrete isn't the only ancient marvel that has left us stumped. A different kind of mystery was unearthed in 1784 on the island of Shikanoshima in Japan. A farmer was digging into his field to repair an irrigation ditch when he struck something hard. At first he was annoyed. It was just a bunch of rocks, and they were getting in his way. But as he kept digging, he realized they were arranged deliberately, forming a case. Carefully lifting each stone, he uncovered something far more precious, a shining, solid gold artifact now known as the King of Nassil. The seal, forged from nearly pure gold, is a stunning piece of history. It features a square base with intricate carvings and symbols on the underside, and a handle shaped like a coiled snake on top. Its 5 engraved symbols have mystified archaeologists and historians for centuries. The most widely accepted theory is that it's a Chinese artifact, presented as a diplomatic gift to the Japanese envoy by Emperor Guangwu of the Han Dynasty around the year 57 AD. The symbols reveal its purpose. It was a seal for the King of Na, marking him as a ruler under the Han Dynasty over a region of ancient Japan, then called Wa. Yet the mystery remains. How did such an important object end up hidden in a field for so long? Some believe it was carefully buried to protect it during times of conflict, while others think it may have been lost and simply forgotten, buried by centuries of earth and history. The King of Nassil is a priceless link between ancient Japan and China, but the question of how it wound up hidden for centuries is a secret it seems content to keep. The Pyramid of Helicon. When most people think of pyramids, Egypt's towering monuments to the pharaohs come to mind. or the Grand Temple pyramids of the Americas. But in the plains of Greece, two pyramids were found, bearing a striking resemblance to the Egyptians' designs, yet standing as mysteries all their own. The better known of these, the Pyramid of Hellinikon, was initially assumed to be a tomb, just like the Egyptian pyramids. But as archaeologists dug deeper, they realized they were wrong. No human remains were discovered inside, and no traces of burial artifacts were found. This wasn't the tomb of a Greek ruler or even a tribute to the gods, at least not one that left any evidence behind. Strangely, none of Greece's ancient texts reference the pyramids at Hellinikon, so no one really knows why they were built. One historian, Pausanias, described a structure as a mass grave for soldiers fallen in battle. But no traces of bodies or any other human burial practices have surfaced at Hellinikon. The 1937 excavation that first uncovered the pyramid's interior found only pieces of ceramic and fragments of lamps. This led some experts to theorize that the Hellinikon pyramid may have functioned as a fortified lookout post rather than a burial site, providing shelter for soldiers or acting as a strategic observation point. However, the debates over its dating and purpose remain fierce, and no one can say for sure what the pyramid was truly meant for. The Norias of Hama. Now let's travel east to Syria, where another ancient structure challenges our understanding of history. In the city of Hama, an impressive series of water wheels, known as the Norias of Hama, rise above the river Orontes. These aren't the water wheels we know today, developed in Europe centuries later. These towering wheels were built over 2,500 years ago, centuries before water wheels are believed to have even been invented. 17 of the original Norias are still standing in Hama today, despite the damage and loss from years of conflict in the region. Even now, no one can pinpoint exactly when they were built, but a mosaic in the city of Apamea, dated to 469 BCE, clearly shows one of the Norias in action, meaning they were already operational by then. And, if they were indeed as ancient as many experts suspect, these water wheels were revolutionary. They provided Hama's residents with safe, fresh drinking water, transported directly from the river at a time when irrigation was barely a concept. This simple yet brilliant technology put Hama centuries ahead of its time. Yet it's unknown who first came up with the idea or how they achieved this innovation. Want to dive deeper into history's unsolved mysteries? Check out Ancient Mysteries We Still Haven't Solved, or stick around for the next video, showing up on your screen right now. And before you go, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for tuning in.